Good evening. A happy Halloween to you all. I guess if you're this side of the pond, you've probably had half the neighbourhood knocking on your door. Hopefully they've all gone away. And of course, if you are of the other side of the pond, then you've got it all to come. I don't know what time it generally starts over there. It's usually late afternoon, early evening. We've had this thing here where the kids, certainly in this area, have been off on what we call half term, which is just like, a week off in the middle of the term. And so they were all out a little bit earlier than normal. But thankfully, it seems to have gone. I think the impending rain has put a lot of people off. Anyway, wherever you are, happy Halloween and happy Friday. It's the end of the week again. It's the end of the month. We have now completed 10 months of this year already. It's just crazy how fast it goes. But here we are. It's the weekend. Hopefully we're the start of a good weekend for you. Whatever it is you may be doing, this is it'll just ease you into it nice and gently. We've got a great show for you. We've got lots of people on the show, lots to talk about, lots to discuss, and hopefully lots of fun to be had. But of course, before we do any of that, we do need to get through the housekeeping, so bear with me. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to the show. Now, I can't. Well, I don't know why I'm apologising, because I didn't make the rules, but our clocks went back last Sunday, and in North America, Canada, I believe, as well, most of that kind of side, you don't go back until Sunday coming. So I apologise for the show being an hour later in your day. But don't worry, next week it'll go back to normal again. So it'll be 11 a.m. on the West Coast and 2 p.m. on the East. So apologies for that. But the benefit of subscription doesn't cost you anything, means the world to us, but you also get notified of such things and you won't turn up late or early, depending on which way we go. But anyway, just give us a subscribe if you haven't already. That would be fantastic. If you want to comment during the show, please use the chat facilities on whatever platform you're watching on, whether it's YouTube, Facebook or Twitch. We will see them all. And if you know somebody who would enjoy this show but doesn't already, then do feel free to share our link around and let people know. Spread the word. And give us a thumbs up if you like the show. It apparently helps us more if you like us during the live stream. So if you're watching live, give us a thumbs up right now. That would be lovely. We've also got ways, because we are community funded. And so it does cost a lot of money. And in fact, I got a bill through for this, or should I say for next year's streaming service. This whole thing that you see here, the company are going to charge us about $45 short of $1,000 this year. And I looked back through 5 years ago, it cost me just shy of $300, and it's now just going to be shy of $1,000. So we appreciate any help that you can give us, because we do pay for this kind of out of our own pockets and with your help. So if you want to help us, you can do that in a number of ways. So first of all, you can support us on Patreon, where a little bit later we're going to be adding some brand new sounds that you can take advantage of if you are a Patreon subscriber. And it just costs a minimum $2 a month. And you get free sounds, you get free samples, you get free video content, exclusive video content. It's all over there. $2 a month or more. It's entirely up to you. And you can turn that on and off as and when you feel the need to do so. And if you have one of those newfangled mobile phones, all you've got to do is scan that QR code that's over there, and it'll take you right there. So that is our Patreon page. The other thing that we have that really helps us, of course, is our merchandise store. And that's at prosynthnetwork.com/merch. And let me just bring in the QR code for that. If you've got one of those fancy mobile phones, there you go. Look, there's a QR code. That'll take you to the merch store, where you can buy T-shirts and hoodies and hats and bikinis and placemats and bottles and coffee cups and all that kind of stuff, emblazoned with our logo. So it not only spreads the word, but it also helps keep us afloat, which is also incredibly beneficial. And of course, you can donate through YouTube Super Chat and Super Stickers throughout the show. If you're watching on catch up, you can press the thanks button. That helps as well. What else? Have I forgotten anything there? I don't think so. Patreon merchandise, Super Chat, Super Stickers. Yeah, that's fantastic if you can do any of that. We've also just launched, and this is nothing to do with fundraising, but we've also just launched in the last few weeks our Discord channel. So if you go to prosynthnetwork.com/Discord, you can then go and join our Discord server, and there are many channels that you can contribute to and interact with fellow viewers right over there. It's growing quite nicely. I've been quite pleased with the way that's going, so that's really cool. So if you want to come over to the Discord page, it is there. We're across all of the social, or most of the social media channels, all the ones there. If you're a member of any of those services, you can just look for @ProSynth Network and you can follow us there. I think Facebook is probably the most active one. So come and join us if you feel that is your thing. And last but not least, if you want to ask a question during the show, then if you can just preface it with a big capital Q, that just helps us put it to one side, where we'll then bring it in at the appropriate time. And I imagine there might be quite a few questions. In fact, I've had some people send questions in advance of the show because they won't be able to make the live show, so they sent their questions in advance. So thank you very much, particularly AD Vision, who sent a good question in, which I shall be asking a little bit later on. And I'm saying that now so that it sticks in my mind, because I will forget. So if I do forget to put AD Vision's question in, somebody remind me. So that is everything that we've got there. Before we meet our very special guest this week, who I'm sure you will all know because you've probably seen the thumbnail, let me introduce everyone that's in the background. First, we'll start off with the non-scary people. We'll start off with Mr. Kent Spong. Oh, no, take that mask off. Well, you could also turn your microphone on. It'd be good if we could hear you. Yeah, it would be amazing if we could hear you. You're muted.
Yes, because I was talking to Siri, sorry.
There we go.
Who is Synth.
Who is now, yeah.
I tell you what, it's very Halloween here. We've got this rather violent thunderstorm going on.
Oh, you've got the storms, have you?
Oh, cool. Yeah. So the kids are enjoying that.
If you disappear, that'll be it.
Well, I'll tell you what, if it gets too close, that's the one that'll disappear.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, she's getting a nice suntan underneath those
lamps.
Yeah.
Really not that bright. It just looks incredibly bright on the camera.
You've had a studio rearrange.
Yes,
it's like a mirror image.
Yeah, it's a bit of a rebuild actually all round.
Has anything fallen off again?
No.
Good.
No.
That was scary.
Yeah.
I see you've got the Korg Modwave.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah, she's up there.
In honour of our guest.
Well, funny enough, she was up there anyway, but yes, why not? Let's go with we'll go with that. We'll go with that. I was going to bring up the PS3300, but it's too heavy.
Yeah.
So
we'll talk about that.
Mind you've got to dig it out of the shed first. I mean,
yes, true. Anyway, good to see you as always.
Yeah, hang on.
Welcome, and let's bring in Mr. Andrew Longhurst. Looking positively normal for a change.
Oh, I thank you. Sweeties, anyone? Halloween sweeties?
Not for me, thank you. I'm on a diet. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Look. Buy your merch.
That's it. Buy your merch.
Buy your merch. No, I'm good. I'm very good. I've been waiting to hear from Dan because, as you all know, I had a PS3300 for a long time, and I'm a huge fan of it and everything they've done since, including the Wavestation, which I'm going to quiz you about. But listen, great to be here. Great to be here.
Good stuff. Excellent. And we didn't see them last week either, but someone has just come back from a lovely sunny trip to Barcelona. And look, he's got the tan to prove it.
Yeah, he has.
Look at that. That's a heck of a tan. How you doing, Scott McAuley?
I'm all good. How are you guys?
Yeah, not too bad. Did you have a nice little break with the lovely Shona?
It was. It was great. We covered a heck of a lot of miles. But it was well worth it, and we've just had a notification through today actually that the Sagrada Familia, the big church, is now. We seen the guy finishing off the piece that was getting lifted up to go on to the very top.
Yeah,
and it just got lifted up today.
Yeah, it's the tallest church in Europe.
It's now the tallest church in Europe. Yeah, we've just had that come through just now, but we seen the guy finishing it off. He was up there and he had it all in a frame. But unfortunately we've just missed that by basically a day.
The last time I was there was 98, and I went there and it was still obviously a massive construction site, so I really do want to go back and see it.
It's amazing. Yeah. The inside is just we initially went down to see it on the first day we were there, but we'd booked to go inside and go up one of the towers on the last day we were there. And yeah, you see it from the outside and it's mind blowing, but when you get inside, it's just like wow.
Gowdy,
yeah,
was a bit of a lad, wasn't he?
He certainly was. But yeah, so it was very good, and the weather was very kind to us as well. We've seen a couple of spots of rain, but apart from that, it was very nice. So.
Excellent. Good
as you can see by my tan.
By your tan, it's incredible. Good to have you back. Good to have you back amongst us.
Good to be back. Good to be back.
And I was going to say stroking his pussy.
Oh dear.
You're like a really bad Blofeld, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. I can't get the sweets in though.
Oh, that's not good.
Like falling out.
How are you, sir?
So I'm all right.
Your dentist must be happy.
Oh no, it's all going wrong. Cats,
headphones, masks.
Oh, that's no. Put it back on. Put it back on.
Put it back on. Put it back on.
I saw a video of you today. It came up on my feed when you interviewed the late great Dave Smith.
Oh, lovely.
And I
Dave
almost
Smith.
didn't recognise you. Seriously, I almost didn't recognise it. It was only when I heard the voice.
Yeah, I was thin.
Well,
no hair.
That. It was just
no,
like the
no beard.
Yeah, it was the whole facial
it was very
hair.
thin.
Yeah.
That was a very rare occasion. I have more facial hair in my life than I have not had. That was a brief moment of beardlessness.
Yes.
You know,
and with a man famous for his facial hair as well.
Exactly. I couldn't out-beard the great man, could I?
No,
it would be very
indeed.
unseemly of me.
Well, it's lovely to see you, Brother Jason.
Yes, indeed. I mustn't make a habit of this, but...
Thank you for joining us always. Get the Gregorian song.
This requiem.
Our souls, save our souls.
Jason is a traitor.
Anyway, so let's get on because we are pushed for time. We've got lots of stuff to talk about. We've got some special guests dropping in a little bit later on just for a quick visit to tell us about something that they're doing. We're very excited to see them. We've also got not one, but two synthspirations, one of which is definitively Halloween themed. The other one is very, very funny and amusing because of the guy that's talking. He's just an absolute barrel of laughs. So we've got two really good synthspirations coming up for you later on in the show. But the bulk of the show today is going to be dedicated to our very special guest. I've known this guy and spoken to him on a few occasions, and he's an incredibly intelligent, very clever man, very generous man. Of course, he's being generous with his time today. All the way from KORG R&D on the west coast of the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Mr. Dan Phillips.
Yay!
Looking suitably seasonal, shall we say? With red lights.
What?
How are you doing, Dan?
I'm doing all right.
Good to see. Are you now taking a little kind of break, or are you full on with the next project? Because obviously, KORG Collection 6 came out this week, and it's been, I'm sure it's been a resounding success. Lots of good, positive vibes coming out of the community for it. Is this now a little bit of downtime for you before the next thing, or are you just straight on into the next project?
No, we have a next project we've been putting off just a little bit, and so it's nice to dig into that one. So cool. I'm getting a bit of an echo here, but I'm not sure exactly what's going on. So okay. I'll just deal with it. And so it would be nice. It would be nice to have a break. We're going to do some meetings in Japan, and I'm going to do a little bit of a vacation with my family there in just a bit. But
nice.
Yeah, for now it's digging into the next thing.
Is that going to be like a mixture of work and pleasure?
Yes, that's the intent. Yeah. Unless I can get my 8-year-old daughter to start working for KORG there. That's always a possibility.
Excellent stuff. So, listen, KORG Collection 6 has just come out, and that's introduced to the collection, which is expanding very nicely. The KORG PS3300 in software, the native version. It's introduced the KORG Trinity, which, of course, is the classic workstation. And also the SGX2, which is the piano sample engine taken from the Kronos and the Nautilus, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So three very broad. You've got something deeply analog, something deeply sample based, and then something deeply classical. So it's a nice little range of things. Everybody should be happy with each of those. I think obviously the one we probably want to hang around on a little bit longer than the rest is, of course, the 3300, which of course follows on from Korg's recreation in hardware of the 3300, which is being made in very small batches. Every now and again I get an email saying, if you want to get on the next list, this is the date, this is the time, get on there. Unfortunately, my bank manager says no at the moment. But now,
I think, really, by the way, I think they're making them continuously. Actually, I think it's just
really?
They're shipping in small batches. Yeah, takes them a week to build like 2 of them, I think.
No way! Wow, yeah, that's crazy. I wouldn't mind seeing inside one of the new ones. I know Kent's often regaled us about the legend of the insides of an original PS3300.
It's very
Do they
dense.
compare?
It's very dense.
Yeah.
I mean, the construction is different in various ways. There's some things, for instance, we couldn't sell it in Europe with the Resonators the way they were. So all of that is completely redesigned. But I think it's 3 boards per panel, stacked, sandwiched.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Wow.
it's there's a lot. Well, it's so many voice cards.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting. Well, not voice cards, but voice chains. Yeah, it's a crazy and wonderful design.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you go about translating that into the native plugin version. I mean, what is the process there? I mean, where do you start?
Well, we start in 2 different spaces. So one of the spaces is the spec, right? So looking at it and trying to see, well, how can we do this? And that's more my area of things. The first thing was just, how do we fit this on a screen? And do it well. Because one of the things about the 3300 is that it's very big, and if you just look at a picture of it, you might think that it was kind of an MS-20 size thing, and these little tiny knobs. But really, I mean, you guys can know it's this huge thing. Yeah. And it actually feels very kind of open and spacious when you're in front of it. I mean, it's like looking up at a monolith. So that was the first challenge, was to try to make a UI that wasn't too crowded, and that still gave you access to everything at the same time. And then thinking about what were any things about the design that we might have changed the second time around. You could actually see Korg going through some thoughts about that as they went into the 3200 and 3100 long ago, thinking about maybe slightly different ways of approaching things. So we looked at that, and then on the other side of things, our DSP guys were looking at initially actually just the documents. It's hard for you to get one. It was hard for us to get one. Wow. So there were a couple different units. There was one in Berlin, and then we had eventually we had a couple here in California. There's also one in Japan that they looked at, and a couple 3100s also in Japan for the ensemble effect. So, but in the initial period, there was going through and looking at all of the circuit diagrams for both the original, what we have of it, because we don't actually have circuit diagrams for all of the original, and then looking at also the new one and kind of trying to figure out what was going on in there. And it's a very, very unusual device. It's made before, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term common practice period in music, but this is definitely before the common practice period in polyphonic synthesizers, and so there were a lot of different choices that they made.
Yeah. And was it? Did you have to combine the looking at the old one and the new one and try and come up with compromises? And did you have to forego anything in the software version because you just simply couldn't recreate that, or it was too CPU intensive, or something like that?
That's a good question. In terms of, with the 2600, we actually did a lot of things where there were switches between old behavior and new behavior, because there were so many generations of 2600. With the 3300, we kind of eschewed that, and mostly focused on the reissue and trusted that one to have gotten things right. And in most cases, it hews quite close to the original. The resonators are something where the behavior is correct, but the technology behind it is completely different, because they were using these light-dependent resistors, these optical components in the resonators, which are no longer ROHS compliant, I think. And also, just quite obscure, really. And so there were some interesting things there. Like, for instance, you had to use filters. They responded very slowly. I just got note from a user saying, "Hey, I'm trying to use audio rate modulation on the resonators, and it's not not doing anything." And the reality is that the resonators respond slowly, and so you have to give them relatively slow modulation signals in order for them to respond. So anyway, that's something that was different. We hewed back to the original for a couple things, like we still gave it 2 voltage processors. They didn't have room for the second voltage processor on the new one. And as far as what we could do and couldn't do, we had an engineer working on this for a year.
Wow.
And then some other guys working on it too. It was we actually approached it. We thought, we've done the MS-20, and we had recently redone the MS-20 filter, and this is we just did the 2600, which is this monster of complexity, and this thing looks pretty simple, so we're just gonna do it and be done. And man, that is not the case. Just because everything in it is different, right? The envelopes are different. The way that the oscillators work is different. The filter is really weird. So the filter, as far as we know, I don't think it existed in anything other than the 3300, 3200, 3100. Nothing else has used that. It's the parts of the topology are similar to the MS-20. So that's why people say, it has a Korg 35 filter. But actually it has a separate resistor capacitor pair inside the filter that does the resonance. It's not an external feedback loop. Almost every other synthesizer that has resonance has an external feedback loop, and this does not. And that's the only thing I would say that we modeled the behavior, and most aspects of it are right. I would say that I think that the nonlinearity is not quite there, but it sounds pretty close, and it certainly sounds closer than anything else.
Yeah, I suppose one of the things that you can get away with is that there are only about 50 of the originals made. So there's not going to be many people that goes, no, it doesn't sound quite like the original.
Well, one of the other interesting challenges, right, with the 2600, the front panel is fairly reliable, and so if you set up, I'm sorry, I'm going to refer back to the 2600 because that was the last kind of big analog modeling project that we did. We all had 2600s on our desk, either the full size or the mini. And so I had a little mini here because it fit nicely on my desk. And you could set up the envelope, for instance, and you could play it, and you could say, okay, is the envelope responding properly? Is when I route that to the filter, is that responding the same way? The thing about the 3300 is that it has these separate voice chains for each note on each panel, right? So you've got in the original, 144 voice chains, and we have slightly more here, but the important thing is that they were using components, like 5% components. And they're using multiples of those, and some of those are in exponential circuits. And that means you can get really quite a bit of variation from note to note. And so, early on we said, okay, the new model, one of the things that it can do is to dump patches, which is awesome. And so we said, well, okay, so we have to be able to import those patches. And so the thing is that you import a patch and you listen to it, and is it right? Because the thing is that these variations you can have up to it, and talking to one of the things that we did when we were prepping the spec was to talk to the guys at KORG Inc. who had worked on the reissue, including the guys who did sound design, and they had some challenges to work through because for the sound design, for instance, the envelopes can actually vary from note to note. So you get your envelope right for C4, and then you play C#4, and the envelope is twice as long. Right. And it's just what it does. Yeah. And so when we were comparing things, we had to kind of keep in mind, if you're, when we were going back and forth, like, are we importing these sounds correctly? We would just had to analyze it in the aggregate. Does it basically seem to perform as the one on the 3300? And the thing is that was a frustration, I know, to some of the people who were working on the original sound design, because you finally had presets, right? You didn't have presets on the original 3300, so you wouldn't have this level of concern about reproducibility of a sound. But in their case, they're like, I would like it to all be the same. But the thing is that the charm of that beast, this additional analog charm of this beast, is that you have so many of these voices and they just don't all respond correctly. And so when you play a chord, if you have any sort of time going on the envelopes, you'll notice that, some of them ramp up more quickly, some of them decay more quickly, some of them release more quickly or longer, and everything just sounds kind of alive. It's this interesting organic soup. It's much more like playing an orchestra than it is playing a preset synth, and that's really neat. It's a really neat thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it must be like playing lots of instruments at once, where you just get those just tiny little variations, and it just makes everything sound so much more glorious, which I guess is the real appeal of the 3300. For so many people, is that it does something that no other synthesizer, I guess, really does at that that level of granularity. It's insane. Andrew, you famously tell us you have lots of experience with the original hardware. Have you had a chance to play with the and compare it, or?
I've not, but I'm going to. I've been busy doing a lot of sound design for one of our, some other people we know. But the 3300, I'll echo what Dan said. One of the reasons it was so glorious, everyone else that was making synths at the time was following the same paradigm, which was established by Moog. For the most part, which is, oscillator, filter, envelopes, blah, blah, blah. They kind of did things differently. It was a little unpredictable when you first saw it. And if you started using it to sequence, which I did, you'd end up with these sequences where if you changed key, the whole sequence would sound very slightly different because of the variation between the filters and the envelopes and all that stuff. That was glorious. And the fact that you could do that across 3 voices, so you could sequence each one separately. You start off with just a single sequence, different keys. It would sound so huge. It was absolutely ridiculous. And I've always loved that about the Korg stuff. So I will be checking this out, Dan. I will certainly be checking out the thing. I know that Mark Barnes has done some sounds for this as well. He's a bit special as well. So I can't wait to look into it. Well done, Dan. Great work, by the way.
Well, talking of which, Mark has done some sounds that you'll find in the actual instrument itself. Those that didn't make the cut and some extras, Mark has very kindly donated to us to give away on our Patreon channel. So sometime over the weekend, and I was going to try and do it before the show, but I didn't get around to it. But sometime over the weekend, there will be a brand new pack that's going to be going onto our Patreon page, and it'll be available to all our Patreon subscribers as well as our YouTube channel members. There'll be a link to download that. And I believe there's some Wavestate sounds in there as well, because Mark is a massive fan of the Wavestate, and so he's thrown in a whole bunch of... There's going to be a nice little collection of sounds in there. So if you do purchase KORG Collection 6 and you've got a Wavestate, whether it's the hardware or the software version, there'll be something for you there too. So a big round of applause to Mark. Thank you very much indeed for those donations. And they'll be available soon on our Patreon and on our YouTube channel members page. Kent, wakey, you've gone very dark there now. It's good. Look, it's you got that. You need to get the light balancing. So that's something. But anyway, we can see you and your lovely hair. From just to sort of like linger a little bit more on the 3300 before we go off to the other parts of the new collection. Yes. You've had and have I think a 3300 through your workshop doors.
I think I've seen about 12 altogether.
Which is a fair number, given that only 50 or around 50
that's about 25% of the ones in existence.
Yeah.
How much fun are they to work on?
Actually, they're good fun to work on. Not what I do to them. That isn't fun to work on, because 9 times out of 10 either have to make brand new cases or re-veneer them. I did a beautiful one. I did it in rosewood. It looks absolutely gorgeous. But it's fiddling around with the keyboard case as well. They're good fun to work with. They can be a bit of a pain with the if you want to work on the card while it's on. I made up a connector so I could have the card out on the desk while the synth is on, because when it's in there, it's of course you can't get your little finger between the cards. So never mind a probe or anything like that. So they're good fun to work on. But they're one of the most reliable synths of the era. I mean, a lot of the people that I restored said that they would tour with them, and they wouldn't give them any grief at all. The cards are solidly screwed in and everything like that, and a nice metal frame. And it's a beautiful machine to work on, and it's a beautiful machine to play as well.
Yeah.
But I think out of all the people that I've had as clients with them, I've only had one person complain about the difference with between the envelopes, and asked me if I could correct it more. And so I put in trimmers to try.
Oh my goodness! For every voice.
Yeah, for every voice. Right. And I nailed it. It took 6 months on and off, while I'm getting on with other projects. But I nailed it, and the guy came down and tried it out and hated it. He said, "No, can you remove it all again?" I said, "Yeah, but you're still paying for it." So.
We had a question come in, and I kind of think I might know the answer to this, but Dan, you'll be able to give us the definitive one. So, is there any correlation between the reissue and the original, so that you could potentially swap things around between the two, or are they just two completely different machines, and the techniques used on the new one are just completely different?
Yeah, I wouldn't expect to be able to swap parts between them.
No.
No.
But I have to say, I'm not a hardware engineer, so I don't know very much about that aspect of the instrument.
Yeah, I mean,
but
I was just saying, sometimes parts are no longer available, but there are new versions. Is that something that happens with the 3300? Is that certain things you just can't get hold of, and you have to, maybe there's some very clever people out there that do replacement parts.
Oh, there's some parts that haven't been available for it for 30 odd years.
Yeah.
Never mind round about now. Especially the those optos in the
right, in the resonators.
in the resonators. Yeah. And I don't think anybody's bothered trying to.
So if one of those goes, is it sayonara or?
Well, I got one or two spare boards knocking around, but
right.
when it's gone kind of thing.
Gone, yeah.
Yeah, it's a closing down Friday sale type of scenario.
But isn't it interesting that the hardware engineers building the 3300 had to come up with a different way of doing this by adding another? Did you say it was another reset, or did they find a different circuit to use, Dan?
So those are two different things. So the resonators, yes, have to use a different circuit because the optical components aren't available, and also wouldn't be legal. I think there's some sort of ROHS problem with them. But the thing I was describing actually was the resonant filters, the resonant low pass filters in the voices. So and that is
which had a separate resonance circuit. Sorry, normally they would have a separate resonance circuit. In this, it was built in, and you got the loop back from within the filter circuit.
Well, it's not even a loop back. It's a dampening that occurs. Our guy talked about it as being like a control rod in a nuclear reactor. So it's or like another pole to the filter. I'm not a DSP guy. I have to say I don't understand it. But it's a very, very unusual way of doing it, and I'm sure they did it because all of these decisions. You had to you look at how big a mini Moog was. That's one voice, and they packed 144 voices into this thing, and they were looking at ways of making it reliable and making it at least somewhat somewhat. I hesitate to use the term affordable, but they were looking for a way to make it possible to make this thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. I don't want to dwell. Obviously, there are two other aspects to the new collection, which I have to say, given its early start, I remember the original Korg Legacy Collection, which I think was M1, Wavestation, MS-20. Was that part of the original?
Very first ones were the MS-20 and the Poly 6.
That's it, and the Poly 6, yes. I still love the Poly 6. There's just something about it. I just love it. It's just simple. It's like a Juno to me. I don't know if that's an opinion that's shared, but for me, it's just it's difficult to get a bad sound out of a Poly 6. Well, I certainly haven't been.
It's those SSMs, mate.
Yeah, gotta be. But you've added, shall I say, 3 instruments. 3300 was one. The next one I want to talk about, because when you added Triton to the Korg collection, I think it was like 2 versions ago or a version and a half ago, you added the Triton, and lots of people said, "Oh, Joe, I wish you'd added the Trinity." Now you've added the Trinity, people saying, "Oh, I wish you'd added the O1W." Or so it just seems like this is. When I fired up the Trinity, I never owned a Trinity, but that era, it was everywhere. It was on everything, especially if you listen to like R&B and hip hop. There were so many producers back in those days with Tritons and an MPC. That was it. That's all they needed, because with a Trinity and an MPC, because the Trinity had everything you could possibly want. It had synth sounds, orchestral sounds, it had drum sounds, the lot. And your MPC was for your beats and your bass stuff. And so many producers were using that. But of course, because it's a Korg workstation, it has such a broad appeal. Was it as much of a challenge to bring the Trinity into the software world? Is it simply a case of, hey, let's go over to the library, we've got all the Trinity samples, we'll just map them out, give it a nice little interface? Or is there much more going on behind, which I'm imagining that there probably is? So, have to say, didn't have that much to do with the Trinity. All right. Okay. My group's involvement in this is, we do the Spark background platform, and that's actually used for the SGX2 as well, even though that so we assisted them with that plugin, but that was more the Japanese software group doing the SGX one, but it's SGX2, excuse me. I'm still used to the original version. So that one is from my group's software, and so we were involved in it somewhat and working with them on that. The Trinity is actually not based on that platform. The Trinity is all done at KORG Inc. And my impression was that the Trinity was relatively simple for the core of it, but it has a lot of effects, for instance, and just cranking through each of the effects and implementing them was a challenge. But it sounds lovely. The many of the technologies in the Trinity were then used again in the HD1 and M3 for OASYS and then Kronos. The Triton, very popular synth, more capable in some ways than the Trinity, right? Double the polyphony, for instance, but not actually technically as high fidelity as the Trinity. And so the Trinity used a very computationally expensive interpolation method. So the samples, when you played them, they sounded really nice, and you played up high, and they didn't alias anywhere near as much as other synths would have. The filters were these nice resonant multi-mode filters, and I had a Trinity at home for a while, and I just loved it. And I used it really entirely as a synthesizer. I had samplers for doing emulative things, and I just loved the sound of that thing. But the advantage of the Trinity over something like the 3300, for instance, is that the Trinity is a digital instrument. Right? So we know basically what the numbers were going in and what they should be going out, and I think that made certain aspects of it easier. Did you have to model the digital to analog converters from the Trinity to get that clarity that it was famous for? So again, I didn't have really very much at all to do with the Trinity plugin. They did model those converters. I'll tell you my thinking about that, and I don't mean to undercut any statements. I think that it's interesting to model the converters, but those converters were high fidelity 16-bit, I think, converters. My guess is that really the sound quality comes much more from the filters and the interpolation methods used for the oscillators. But I think it's very cool that they modeled the T to A, and I'm sure people appreciate that level of attention to detail. Yeah, I mean, I was playing through it the other day, and so I never had the original, so that I wasn't familiar with the sounds from a personal playing level, but you could just hear. You recognise so many of these sounds, the nylon guitar sound. It was just it was all over stuff for a long period of time. I'm going to bring Scotty in because it looks like he's going to sleep. Always actually polite. From a sound design perspective,
just touching up on my suntan here.
Were you a Trinity user back in the day?
I wasn't a Trinity user. sort of colleague in crime at the time, back in the day in the 90s. He had the Trinity and I had the Triton. And my cousin now has my Triton. I actually passed that on to my cousin and he still uses it. But the Trinity was one that Mike, my sort of partner in crime as it was musically at the time, he had that in the Prophecy. And amazing. Both of them are fantastic synths. Yeah, so I'm quite intrigued to try this one, the software version now, to see how it sort of pans out, because I do know quite well how it sounds, but through the songs that we used it on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an impressive synth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a few. When I let go of my Triton, I ended up with an M3 without the Radius sort of joint add-on on it. Yeah. I had the 88 key version of that. And then now I've got the multi-poly, I've got the multi-poly and the Prologue and the Minilog XD as well, which I've still to do sound design on. But yeah, the Korg synths are great. You can't go wrong with them.
Absolutely. I think a Korg workstation is almost like a rite of passage, isn't it? At some point, we've all owned or used one over there. And I snapped up the plug-in version as soon as that came out, because I just love some of those sounds on there.
Workhorse.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason.
And a stunning sound.
Yeah,
yes.
You were in the retail division of a certain store around that time, and Korgs were certainly passing through your doors. What are your recollections of the Trinity, the workstations, those kind of things? You had one, yeah.
I had one, and I sold so many of them in that era. I think in the early noughties, I was doing a lot more beat-driven music, sort of towards the sort of drum and bass world. And of course, a lot of my customers were, the Represent guys. So my personal Trinity, when I did sell it, went to Ronnie Size.
Oh, really?
But
wow.
Yeah, so he's got I don't know if he's still got it or not, but that's where it went. But yeah, there was a lot of those guys were really into those sounds. And I think the thing with that era of Korg, and I mean these people who weren't interested in the workstation aspect of it at all, they just wanted all the quality sounds that were in there, and it was just easy keyboard to sell, to be honest. And it just sat in the mix. Any pad sound just floated through. You could put as much bass, as much dirt on the. I've gone.
You're still here. We can still hear.
Am I?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, it's. I don't know what's going on with the system, but yeah. So ultimately, yeah, it was very easy to sell.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, just really good quality. Okay.
Indeed. Of course, the third and final part of the new Korg Collection 6, which is out now to buy, and there are plenty of. If you're a previous owner of either the Korg Collections or elements within, so maybe you bought some of the individual instruments, you can get upgrade discounts. So please go and check your account for that. The third one is an interesting diversion, because in the Korg Collection, we've seen recreations of classic analog, classic digital, the Prophecy, which was great to see in there now, which we can now play polyphonically. And I want to come back to the whole Oasis and Moss thing, because I know you were involved in that, Dan. But the SGX2, was there a big demand for that? Was there any particular reason, or was it just to kind of broaden the appeal of the Korg Collection to bring that one in?
Well, I think they're pretty nice sounding pianos, and
Yes, yeah.
And it's actually also really nice to work with. That was something that that I hadn't expected, was as opposed to pressing change and waiting for samples to load. You can just switch instantly between those pianos, and that's a very nice thing from work. It reminds me of like the the addictive keys and addictive drums sort of approach to things, and I like those products a lot. So with the SGX2, one thing is that I think people have noticed that we're gradually bringing some of the engines from the Kronos into the Korg Collection. And so that's one of the things that's happening. So the EP1 was last time,
Yes.
and the SGX2 is this time. Both of those actually based on our new software platform, and that platform is also behind the Grand Stage X and ModWave, Multipoly, and Wavestate and Op6.
Yes.
And So I guess you had asked why, and I think one of the reasons is that if you're selling a suite of instruments, it really makes sense to sell the pianos. I remember people when we released the Wavestation long ago in 1990. Some people really wanted a piano sound in that, and we actually ended up adding a piano sound in the Wavestation EX, even though that instrument was not about that at all. People like piano sounds, and I actually have been very happily playing with the SGX2 in my studio, even though I have a whole bunch of other piano libraries. It's been neat to kind of reconnect with them. I have a Kronos up here, but it doesn't get turned on as much as I would like recently, just because I'm so focused on other things.
Yeah, sure. No, it is a lovely addition. I think now when you look at the various collections, you've got the KORG Collection, you've got Arturia's V Collection, you've got Roland Cloud, and there are various others out there. Having a broad range of instruments, and it is now a really broad palette, because you've got electric pianos, you've got grand pianos, you've got analog synths, you've got digital synths, you've got groove boxes like the Electribe, you've got physical modeling. So there is it has developed over the years into a very worthwhile package to have, and it's the Korg instruments. Korg for me have always been that company that have gone just that little bit left field. They've never played straight down the middle. They've always said, "What if we just tweaked that and went that way?" And it works. Yeah. And they're always, for me, they're one of the bravest of the big three, shall we say?
I was going to ask you a question, Dan, and it was about the Wavestation. I remember when it came out, I'd already bought and owned one of the very first PPG waves. That came in the country. So they had wavetable synthesis. Then you came out, there came the point when the Wavestation came out, and I just remember I was expecting it to be a series of wavetables like the PPG, but it wasn't. It was rhythmically and tonally slices of sound, which just worked. That was totally brilliant, and it got everyone thinking, and it appeared in lots and lots of different things. So I was just wondering, with the way you're doing all of the converting this into plugins, as it were, the temptation must be there all the time to go, well, we could just add this additional thing, we could add this other little thing. And how far does that go? How faithfully do you want to recreate the original instruments, and how much is there the temptation just to add that little bit more?
Okay, so I mean, with the Wavestate, right? If we go back to that, since you were talking about the Wavestation, the Wavestation there's a Wavestation in the KORG Collection, but then we also did the Wavestate, and really, when I was working on the Wavestate, because that was from my group, that was the first project from this kind of new era of KORG R&D in California, and when we were working on that, the charge was to, create a new Wavestation. That was an idea from our now late president, Seiki Kato. We said, well, what would we do with it now? I love the Wavestation. I still have an AD and an SR in my rack here. And the only SR I think that will read original Wavestation cards, the first prototype. So, but there were all sorts of neat things about that. But we thought, well, what else could it do? So with the Wavestate, we really were not focused on recreating the Wavestation. We were interested in saying, well, wave sequencing is really cool. What can we do with it today? With these two recent recreations that we've done, the 2600 and the 3300, we definitely wanted to improve them. But the first thing we really wanted to do was to understand what was cool about the original, right? So we've been talking a little bit about the 3300 and how one of the critical things, I love that story about the envelopes. That's perfect, Kent. Because it really expresses it. Initially, honestly, we were thinking, oh, well, this is, I always get questions about the randomness aspects of things, like who's going to want that? What's the benefit? And the benefit is that it makes the thing sound alive. And all of the strangenesses of the 3300 are what make it so incredibly interesting now, because it had these different approaches to things. And it is, on the one hand, right, it's a very simple synthesizer. So it actually has a lot in common with a Poly 6, right? Each of these synthesizers, if you just look at the 3 panels as an individual synthesizer, it's got one envelope, it's got one filter, it's got one oscillator, it's got actually 2 LFOs, which is quite generous. And then it's got this resonator, which is this unusual thing, right? And so on the one hand, it kind of encourages you to think about things simply, but on the other hand, it's got these very strange other aspects. So you have these resonators that you can modulate up to low audio rates, like about 120 hertz, I figure. You have these very fast, this modulation generator, LFO, MG1 can go up to about 1.8 kilohertz. So I actually have a couple patches where I'm using it as an audio oscillator. But just having that facility there and being able to, modulate pitch and filter and amplitude with audio rate oscillators in this very simple structure, it just makes you think about things really differently. And so working with that and trying to say, okay, well, are there things that we could do that would enhance it in terms of, being a more modern synth, or things that we can do in software that really weren't practical if you had to do it 144 times in hardware. So we added a second envelope, so you can enable an amp envelope. But I'll tell you that I do that about, I don't know, maybe a third of the time, because I love working with this thing, which is just one envelope, and it's controlling amplitude and filter at the same time, and it just kind of works that way. The envelopes have a really strange shape. So they have a really linear, they have a really linear attack, and so that produces these really interesting kind of punchy transients when you use a pretty fast attack and a fast decay. It sounds different, but it also sounds really different when you use a slow attack. It sounds like someone's moving up a fader.
Yeah,
and then the decay is a more traditional decay, but it scales according to the sustain, and then the release releases can be quite long, and so we thought, well, that's really neat, and we absolutely want to preserve that. But in some cases, the sound designer said, and it would also have been nice occasionally to have like a normal ADSR, and so we took in both of those envelopes. You can switch it to be kind of a normal. It's more like the one we did for the ARP. So it has the normal shark fin kind of shape that you see, and it behaves a little bit more like you would expect a traditional analog synth envelope to work with. And some people did use that. It's interesting looking through the sounds and seeing what different sound designers gravitated towards. But again, for myself, often I'm using the original because it does something that other stuff doesn't.
And sorry, the other thing I was going to ask was that the thing I most remember about the 3300 was the fact that no one else had that at the time, you could plug patch cord. You could patch cord the envelope into the LFO 1 rate of oscillator 1 and do a different thing to oscillator 2, LFO 2, and you could do all of this mad multiples of LFOs triggering stuff. It just made it so ridiculously fat. No one else did that at the time. How have you handled that in the software?
Well, I mean, it works the same. One of the interesting things, right, when you're importing patches from the new one is that they're none of them have patch cords because the patch cords aren't stored on the new instrument. Which it makes sense. So going through and working with some of the original patches and seeing, okay, well, they did this, that's kind of neat. Working with the voltage processors, that's another interesting thing. I'm not aware of anything that works that way. So there's, you set you're kind of mapping the minimum and maximum of, it's kind of like a tracking generator, actually. That's maybe the closest thing is like a 2-point Oberheim tracking generator. But we added a couple of MGs, which make it easier to do certain things. I mean, I don't know what's the question. How do we deal with it? We tried to recreate it, and the other thing is that you're dealing with all these different. So some of them are 0 to 5 volts, some of them 5 volt peak to peak, some of them are just 3 volt, and so there are all these interesting kind of mismatches between the expected voltages at various places, and so you get different responses. And if you take the MG and you route it, so there's a normaled routing right from the MG to the filter and to pitch and to amplitude. And for filter and pitch, you can also patch in something else. So, and that MG also has an output. So if you patch the MG into the external input and then set the knobs exactly the same, they don't behave the same.
They don't line up though. I know.
Right, so we're a few minutes away from having a couple of special guests knocking on the door and dropping in with some great information. So I just want to kind of put a little pause on there. Before they arrive, I just also want to recognise that Droigon has gifted 10 ProSynth Network memberships to whoever's got one of those. So congratulations.
I got one.
And thank you. Did you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, we said you remember. Dr. Mike Metley, a.k.a. Dr. Mike's Mr. Sparrow. Hi, Dan. Great to see you, and thanks for being here. He's made a lovely donation. Mike did ask if he could come on the show, but because we've got so many people on and other people coming in, it was just getting very crowded, and I can't deal with all of these people at once. It's quite difficult.
Lovely to speak to Mike here. So
yes,
Mike, I'll give you a call afterwards.
There you go. Thank you to Andrew for his donation, as always. Happy Goth. Yes, of course, it's Goth Christmas today, as it's called over here. And thank you to Scott as well for your donation. Much appreciated as well. Thanks to everyone that's made donations so far. Let's see. Have we got any quick fire questions that we can throw at? Some of these are quite... here's a good one from Peter. Can I load sounds and sequence data from my hardware Trinity Plus into the software version? Do you know about that?
I don't think that's possible yet, but
Okay.
I don't know for sure. I don't
cool.
think so. I'm going to open it up and just see.
Nice.
Briefly.
Yeah, that would be cool if that was possible. Any chance of getting an MS2000 skin or GUI for the micro Korg plugin?
Interesting question. I've heard that one from other
Yeah, I
places
think
before too.
Yeah, be interesting. There you go. It's been duly noted, Yana said. It's been duly noted. So fingers crossed. You never know. I mean, that's one I think a lot of people have said to me. Over the years, I'd like an MS2000 in the Korg collection. I mean, there's lots of Korg synths. I'd like to see a Z1 in the Korg collection.
Oh,
at some
yeah.
point, because
I'd
we've
like to
got a
see
prophecy
the best Korg ever made.
Go on.
Oasis.
The current one or the original one.
Mm.
Because that never got released, did it? I mean, that's something I was looking at Dan's website earlier on.
Yeah.
Yes,
I've got some Oasis and Moss questions lined up. If we have time, if not, I'll email you later, Dan. But
All right.
I mean, that was such an incredible period of innovation, not just for Korg, but also the likes of Yamaha in acoustic and physical modelling and all of that stuff. It really was the future then. And then, of course, samples became quite
Just
affordable.
imagining Oasis with MPE support.
Oh, yeah.
Poly
You still regret
80.
selling your Oasis?
Yes, every
Yes.
bloody day. Don't remind me.
Never mind. Right, so we'll save some of the other questions. Don't worry, we've got them all stacked up here. And if you do have a question for anybody here, especially Dan, then do mark your questions with a big capital Q, and we'll try and gather them up. And if we can't answer them today, I might just drop them into an email to Dan, and when he has some time, maybe you could answer them, and we can then let those people know on a subsequent show.
Happy to do it.
Thank you very much. Right, okay, so we've got some guests coming in just a moment, but before we do that, I want to just put a nice little pause in the show, a nice little break, and I'm going to play one of our synthspirations. Now, one of our biggest supporters, one of our biggest fans, is a gentleman called Carl Bedford, who is I think he's originally from Halifax in the UK, not in Nova Scotia. He's a DJ extraordinaire. He's got an incredible studio, but he's also got this bizarre fetish for all things spooky, horror, and Halloween. And this is his night. Tonight is his night. So Carl did a brilliant synthspirations for us. I think it was last Halloween.
Yeah.
This Halloween, he pinged me literally on Thursday morning and said, "Hey up, lad, do you want one for this week?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I mean, we've already got one, but if it's going to be one of yours, I'll absolutely have it." So we've got one coming up soon from Ollie from the Circuit Symphony, but this is a nice quick one, which will just nicely interject, and we'll bring our special guest visitors in with their little announcement right after we see this wonderful synthspirations from Carl Bedford from his Padawan studio over in Belgium. Well done, Carl. That was brilliant.
Yay!
As always, we can rely on Carl for superb production values. And thank you, mate. And I hope you're having a fantastic Halloween. I'm hoping you're not sat there at home watching the show and you're out doing lovely Halloween type things this evening. I don't know what they do in Belgium. Maybe Asio Head, if Asio Head's in the chat. I don't know what is the tradition in Belgium for Halloween. But anyway, yes, thank you very much, Carl. Looking forward to seeing you, mate. He actually pinged me the other day and said, "Do you fancy going to NAMM?" And I said, "I'd love to, but I don't think I can afford it this year." So I will hopefully see you again in Berlin, which is where we normally meet up. So yeah, thank you for that. We've got another one coming up a little bit later on in the show. But before we do that, I need to bring in a couple of very special guest visitors. I'm going to add them to the stage now, and let's bring them in. One of them, I can't see them on the camera, so I don't know if Anthony, if you are... Oh, there he is. He's there. We've been joined by Anthony Marinelli and Bob Coover. I mean, we are just full of synth legends here today. Gentlemen, welcome. You're both... same time zone as Dan over on the West Coast, I believe. How is it over there for you on this Halloween lunchtime?
It's beautiful. It's just beautiful, sunny, and like, was it 85 degrees or something like that?
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah, you can see a little bit of the sunlight coming through the window here.
Excellent.
That's not artificial light.
Yeah.
Well,
What's this?
Yeah.
I'm in SoCal and Bob is in NoCal.
That's right, of course, yeah, and that's quite a hike. It's a 2-day drive, I think, isn't it, or something like that? Well, I don't know.
6 hours.
I made it last 2 days when I went from San Francisco. So yeah, San Francisco down to LA. And I think I stopped in San Luis Obispo overnight or something.
I mean, that's some English driving to take.
Yeah. We're tourists, right? We're tourists.
Well, if you're not doing that drive all the time, then then there are many things to see in between. I'm in Santa Barbara, so I'm kind of in the middle between the two.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Anthony.
So,
hi, Bob.
You guys have got something very special. Now, we ran a little trail for it last week when we had the brilliant Brian Nash on the show. But you're giving something away, which is got to be news for everyone. So, Anthony, you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on with you and Bob?
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as if you go to anthonymarinellimusic.com, you can have a chance to win a third wave, and it's the big one with the keyboard.
Wow.
And there's a good chance, because it's not like a 1 in a million, there's not a million people that are going to sign up, or even 1 in 100,000. I don't even know 1 in 10,000. So there's a chance you can win it. And there it is. Yeah. And it's the good one. And
wow.
I can just say, like, I really ended up liking this, like, sort of like circled the wagons on this synthesizer. And once I had a chance to spend some time with it and play it, I really like it. And the reason I do is because it's simple to use. And you can get way deep into it as well, but the front just looks like oscillators, filters, envelope generators, and VCAs. And if you move them, they just move, they change, and you can change the sounds that are already there. And I can make sounds really quickly on it. And that I love, and it fills in a gap that I don't just put a synthesizer in my studio, because I kind of have not enough space. And I'm not a collector. I play them, right? And I really made space for it. And it's lightweight. I can put it under my arm, so I can take it out and play it. So that's why I fell in love with it. And I made a video, and Bob offered a synth, and we want to give it away, because I mean, that's our channel. And if you sign up for our mailing list in order to get it, to win it, we don't jam your inboxes with email. That's just not where we're coming from. The mission of our channel is we give it all, like all the stuff on the channel is free. It's all about information, history, how to, and giving hope to people that, you can do it. Like all the stuff we talk about, like, I'm just like you guys. I'm not that technical of a person. So that's the mission. So sign up. It's not only to win the third wave, although that's good incentive, but it's to just stay in touch with us. And I just want to say a couple other things. We have Patreon now, and we do 2-way live streams. So you can communicate with me, and we do like a master class. I take a topic, but then we open it up for Q&A, and we can go around the studio and try different things. And then the last thing is the Think Like a Synth is going on sale for 35% off. We're doing an early Black Friday sale. So that's all part of what we're doing, the teaching and the interacting with you guys. And then there's a giveaway. So Bob is here. He could tell you more about the synth. I mean, that's my take. Is I can play the thing right away, and I love it.
Well, let's just put this onto the stage. So yeah, think like a synth. We spoke. Anthony came on the show and told us all about this. This is his course. There's 2 new lessons have just been added. That's the UK price because it's dynamically priced depending on where you are. So £347 gets you into this course with 29 lessons over 7.5 hours. Loads of great stuff in there about ear training and synthesizer knowledge. You also get a free copy of Cherry Audio's CA2600 synth because Anthony uses the ARP 2600 for, I guess, what was Alan's original intention, which was as a teaching instrument.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant instrument to learn on, and that is all available there. And don't forget that also, you know, we've just been talking about this amazing synth. Let's just bring Bob in. Bob, Look, you came on the show when the Groove Synthesis third wave launched, and it has just gone on from strength to strength. It gets so many great reviews. You've introduced different versions of it now. So first of all, tell us, how are things going at Groove Synthesis? Can we expect something new from you in 2026? And what was your motivation to give one of these to Anthony to give away?
Well, Anthony makes the thing sing. It's great. And as Anthony just said, you know, I do a lot of machine learning. The statistics are very good in your favor for winning one of these things. So get signed up. For our newsletter as well. And we also are not going to blast you. You'll keep up to date. And as you just said, what will we be releasing next? Well, we just released the third wave 8M. So that's an 8-voice version with exactly the same voice structure, exactly the same patch compatibility. There's nothing different about it. It's got 8 voices. You're still not going to menu dive, believe it or not, because if you go back up there and look at that screen, we've laid out a larger screen, so you're actually going to get around it just as easily without doing any menu diving as you would with the keyboard. But there are less knobs, and there are less knobs. You know, the knobs that we did include are the ones that you're going to grab, like filter, cutoff, that sort of thing, for your performances, right? Mm-hmm. But what has changed with the keyboard since the last time we talked? Well, we've added a bunch of things, like you said. This would be where Mr. Smith, Dave Smith, I love the man, and I've worked for him. He would have killed me. He just said, "Bob, you're feature creeping," and you're right. We really feature creeping. It's got sampling now.
Yes.
So it's got it's always had the user wave tables, the PPG. It's always had the FM. It's always had the 3 oscillator analog, but now it's got sampling. It's got monophonic, if you want it, LFOs instead of having to have polyphonics. You can lock those up. It's got Prophet VS wavetables in it now. It's got a bunch of things. I should have made a list here. But since you have seen it last time, it's got a large number of new features. And like I said, Anthony made the thing sing. That beginning track on the video that he's got, he did everything from the third wave right down to the drums. So, you know, now that you've got sampling, the sky's the limit. And any of the oscillators can be whatever you want it to be. And then finally, I got to say, because of the Think Like a Synth, it is laid out. It's laid out like an analog synthesizer. You've got additional items, and you'll see it in the video. But it's pretty straightforward. Now, you know, if I said that to my wife, she'd kill me and go, "What the heck are all these knobs?" You know. But for those of you that know analog synthesizers, and Anthony absolutely knows them, you are going to be pleasantly surprised at how simple it is to get around, and you're going to be pleasantly surprised, which you can't see or hear on the internet usually, how wide and large of a sound you can get very quickly.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. I remember when you brought the sampling feature, I saw it at Superbooth 24, I think it was. You had Pef there as well, and it was just it sounds huge.
Yeah.
Anthony, I just wanted to ask, obviously the third wave is inspired by another great big blue synthesizer called the PPG Wave. Did you have much experience of that back in the day?
No, because I was really focused on the synclavier, and back in the day, it was like, and who did I talk to about this? They were Marcus Ryle. They were camped, and it was like you were a synclavier guy, and then or you were a PPG guy, or you were a Fairlight guy, and it was just kind of like that. And then even when I was taking the synclavier out, I didn't even get to be the analog guy. Like Boddicker was the analog. Like what? I know what I'm doing, but so I would just drag a filter and put my synclavier through a filter. But so there was like a PPG guy, I can't remember his name, and we would show up at different sessions, and cross paths, and Casey Young was a lot on the Fairlight, and he was an analog guy too. But I don't know if you know Casey, but he's like one of the greatest synthesists, and he built that Oberheim that Rob Rosen has, that Oberheim like 8-voice. That's a rack-mounted version of the 8-voice with patch points on it. It's a rare, one-of-a-kind Casey, one of one.
Yeah.
But one thing about the third wave, it also has 4 stereo outputs. So there's there's 8 holes on it. So you can really get, like on the synclavier, a lot of like spread. And on the Moog modular, there was a quad mixer, and it gets into that realm because there's an analog filter. And I use quad out of the big Moog a lot, out of the 3C. And so having that on the third wave gets you that feeling that you just don't get on too many other synths. Like when you're playing it, you can get it, you record it and bring it back, but very rare to put that much hardware on the thing. So I think the price point is high because there's a lot of stuff in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so glad that this thing exists.
Yes.
You couldn't. Oh, it was like when it was announced, and I was going, oh, thank God. I don't have to repair any more bloody 2.3s and bloody wave turns. Thank you.
Stock answer for every new synthesizer that comes out. Well, I don't have to repair any more of the old ones.
Yeah, actually, to be fair, because a lot of customers now going, oh, we're going to get the third wave. I go, good.
Yeah, it's still on my shopping list, that's for sure.
Does it fill the space for you, Kent, in terms of the function, what it did musically, that the PPG?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a much more just looking at the pictures of it, it's a much more pleasurable experience because the PPG was so big, and I mean, and if it did have the waves, I mean, the wave tone was just so heavy and cumbersome, and it was like, oh God, it takes up so much desk.
And that age-old thing
and then you got
painting.
this girl, and it's all there, and everything's just beautifully laid out. And
with the wave term and stepping into the sampling, right? Because you had to have a wave term to sample. You got 3 seconds at about a 12 kilohertz bandwidth.
Because it was like you play the guitar into it, and you go, or the piano. You play the piano into it. You play a piano note, and you go ding like that, and you play it back. And if you haven't quite got it right, it goes. What is this? What is this?
That was definitely the inspiration. The PPG is the cat's meow, but this thing does the PPG, and as you just said, Kent, it not only does that in spades, but it's a heck of a lot easier to use and goes a heck of a lot further. I mean, that was the whole point, was not to just recreate, but to make sure that this covered all the ground. And Anthony's already said, you can, if you can think it up, you can probably figure out how to make it on that one thing, because you've got the 3 oscillators, the 4 parts, the 4 sets of outputs, the 5 synthesis techniques, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly.
And all the digital hats too. You didn't eliminate it.
Yeah,
right.
I love that high frequency stuff.
All the sort of artifacts and things. It's all there.
Yeah.
High up on the list is the one thing you can do. You can pick this up, stick it under your arm, and take it downstairs and play it on your lap in the front room. Good luck doing that with a 2-3.
Well, listen, just to remind everyone, I can never get this. It's this way. Yeah.
There you go.
Scan that QR code, it takes you right to the Third Wave giveaway website. Here it is on your screens right now. Complete the entry form by Thursday, December 4th, 2025 by 11:59 p.m. Pacific time, and that will be Pacific regular time because obviously clocks go back. So you get an extra hour to enter. The prize obviously is a Third Wave synthesizer, which is just an incredible machine. There was a question about, is this open to people outside of the US? Yes, it is.
Yes.
There's details there. So all you got to do is just fill in those details, answer the question whether you're a US resident or not, and then tick or not tick the relevant boxes, but do tick the robot box just to prove that you're not one, and then submit. Of course, if you are a robot, then don't tick it and see what happens. Who knows? All the rules are there. That's all you got to do, and you will win yourself what is certainly one of the most exciting new debut synthesizers of recent years. For me, it's up there with like the ASM Hydra synth as just being something completely new and different, but still has a little bit of the history in the past. But it's just such a great synthesizer, and continued congratulations to you, Bob, and continued success for the company. We look forward to seeing what else you come up with beyond this, and of course, continued to success to you, Anthony, with your Think Like a Synth program. Your amazing YouTube channel, which is still such an amazing resource. We love to watch your stuff. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today and telling us all about it. And everyone go and enter. And if you want to learn more, sign up to the program. Okay.
Yep. And Monday's video is the studio tour, which I was surprised. I was forced into it. I just showed up and they were there with the cameras and they made me do it. But it's a full studio tour.
Excellent. That's going to be worth a watch.
Gunpoint.
I didn't want to be like
Anthony at gunpoint.
But it's there, so I did it.
Awesome.
Monday.
Look forward to it. That's on Monday. What time
Show us
on
the
Monday?
3C now.
Is that 11 a.m. your time? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because don't forget, everyone, the clocks in America go back, so we're all going to be syncing up again. So 11 a.m., which means it's going to be 7 p.m. Over here in the UK.
7 p.m.
You gotta see Anthony's studio. Good grief.
I know, we've seen bits of it, and we just try and piece it together in our heads, but we really want to see this. So
it's a 45 years in the making, though. You know what I mean? It happened. I used the instrument. I'm not here to just go, and I have this, and I have. That's what I was trying to avoid, but they all got good use, and they make up what's there.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Robbie.
Thank you, you guys.
Thank you.
It's been great. Anthony does know what we're doing next. I'm going to keep it under our hat, but it will be equally exciting, if not more so.
Oh, you've got my email address, I'll happily sign any NDA.
yes. No, but a ways down the road still.
Yeah.
Dig the Third Wave 8M and all the other stuff in the meanwhile.
Brilliant stuff.
Sound design.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Coover, Anthony Marinelli, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you.
Good guys.
See you later, guys.
Take care. See you all soon. See you all soon. It's so good that we get so many great people on the show. But anyway, we've got about 40 minutes. We'll just wait for the applause there to finish. We've got about 40 minutes left. We still need to interrogate our special guest, Dan Phillips from KORG. I've got some questions. I'm sure you have too. Before we go anywhere else, let me just check in the question pool. Oh, blimey, yeah, there's quite a few there. So we'll try and get to those in a little while. Before we do, I'm just going to have another quick break while we share our second Synthspirations video. Now, Ollie Davis is a guy that I've known for many years. I used to deal with him when he was working at Roland. He was at Roland in Swansea in the UK. I think he was, I don't want to misname his position. I think he was sales manager there. Anyway, he's a lovely guy. He's an incredibly talented musician. He has a band called the Circuit Symphony that I believe is still touring live. And he's also a massive Jean-Michel Jarre fan. So you will find some of this in his Synthspirations, which he very kindly submitted to us last week. But because we had Brian on the show last week, we didn't have time to fit it in. So we're going to show it this week. Here is a few minutes of Ol telling us all about his Synthspirations.
Hi, Ol here from the Circuit Symphony, and these are my Synthspirations. So when I first started thinking about doing this, loads of albums sort of came to mind, tracks. which are, fantastic. Some of them like Zuluk and all sorts of things like that. But I wanted to try and think what really, really caught my ear, or my ear, as we say in Wales. The earliest recollection of any electronic sound or electronic music at all. And being born in 1979, I was lucky enough to sort of have some really, really good music around me at the time. And, same as all of us, music, I think, entered our lives before we even knew it, And so the first one, believe it or not, is Elton John, Funeral for a Friend, 1974. And what I love about this was the opening track and the opening about 4 minutes. I think it's done on the ARP 2500, and I didn't just look that up on Wikipedia. And just the sound, the white noise, the wind, the mood it created, and then the way the brass came in, and the way, even back then, I loved the way those notes cut off. I don't know whether there's something to do with the envelopes, don't want to get too technical with it. And then the rest of the song was really sort of bittersweet, a really nice song, but just that snippet was the first one that caught me. And I've got a photograph of me, which is on the screen now somewhere, with my Fisher-Price record player that played real records, okay? Not this plastic stuff. It had real needle, and I remember just listening to it all the time, just that first couple of moments, all the time. Yeah, so that's the first one. And the second is sort of very similar. Again, it's from 1974, and it's 10 cc's sheet music album, which I think is a fantastic album. But it was the beginning of Hotel. Very similar to Funeral for a Friend, where they just set that atmosphere with, I'm not sure what's using this one. I'd love to know if anyone knows. But it's just that bubbling, LFO envelope, distorted, whistling sound. Again, being a child, probably couldn't even speak at that point. I was just fascinated by how it made me feel. It just really captured me. It was brilliant. The third one, I mean, there's millions. Of course there's millions, but these are the ones that just planted the seed. And it's Vangelis, or as they say now, Vangelis. I used to work with somebody who was Greek, and when I said, have you heard of Vangelis? He laughed at me. So, Vangelis. And it's Abraham's theme. Again, at the beginning, just with those synthesizer sounds, the CS80 and the big reverb and the peacefulness of it all. I played this to death. Again, when I was a kid, still on my Fisher-Price record player. And I did have Nelly the Elephant as well, LP one, single ones, but that's a different story. Yeah, so moving on a little bit differently. The next one is got to be Jonah Louie. Stop the Calvary as well, but you'll always find me in the kitchen at parties. Just that string sound, that synth sound. And I think it was a Polymoog, I don't know. I'd love somebody to confirm that. But that's what caught me when it came to string synths. And even the Birdie song, come on. There's some brilliant sort of ensemble string synths going on in there. Yeah, so those are the earliest things that sort of captured my mind. And then, we move in on then to Zuluk Ethnicolor, with all the voices and the articulation of the speech. And even though you don't know what they're saying, I know the John Majar either, but it's that expression, that articulation. It was brilliant. That's what's always fascinated me, is using the human voice in some sort of way, sampled to make another sound. I just thought that is an extraordinary album, and it still is today, and it still sounds way ahead of its time. It's phenomenal, especially if you really stop and listen to Ethnicolor. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. So I could go on and on. My Goldfield, Foreign Affair, lovely riff on there. I think a lot of us agree with all the sort of same things there, but these were the ones that maybe stop and think, I need to find out more about that. And, that's where I am today, sitting in the studio talking to you lot. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Only quick, short, sweet, but I just wanted to really go back to the beginning before I really started enjoying music, just the sound and what captured it. So enjoy. I don't know why I turned around like a news presenter then.
Is that bit at the end? I thought, has he forgot to edit that off? No.
Yeah. No.
Great stuff. Ollie Davis there from the Circuit Symphony, product support manager, not sales manager. Thank you for correcting me.
Brilliant.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you ever so much. And if you have got a Synthspirations inside of you bursting to get out, then all you got to do is just sit in front of a camera. You don't have to do anything as elaborate as Carl did earlier on. You can do exactly what Ol did there. We've had some brilliant creative submissions, some without any speech at all, and it all works brilliantly. So all you got to do is film the video, just a few minutes long, and then send it in to us at prosynthnetwork@gmail.com or rob@prosynthnetwork.com. Either of those will work. Probably best to zip it up and send it via a file sharing service like WeTransfer, and send it over to us in the email. And just make sure you don't use any original music, because we'll then get our wrist slapped and we won't be able to, this video won't be able to be seen in certain places. So don't put any of the original music in. You can put some of your own music in if it's okay to use that, but none of the original stuff. And thank you ever so much to both Ollie and to Carl for your Synthspirations double header this week. And send yours in and we'll show it on the show. And if you are a Patreon subscriber and a YouTube channel member, those videos will become available to you free of charge, and you can watch them in high def and with full stereo sound and everything on those various platforms. So there we go. Thank you very much indeed. Right, we need to get back to talking to our very special guest, who is Dan Phillips from KORG R&D over there in America. Thanks for hanging around with your brilliant Halloween. If anybody's wondering why we're all red or green faced, or got lights going on, or dressed up as monks,
If you watch this in the future.
I have no idea what Ken's dressed up as, but it is scary as all hell. With the hair,
I'm a haunted Swan Vesta match.
You're a haunted Swan Vesta. There we go. We've got about half an hour left, about a quarter of the show left. So it would be remiss of me if I didn't ask Dan about your past with KORG, because according to your website, and it says here, these are your words, that your job at KORG was the first job out of college. So you must really, really enjoy what you do, and they must be really appreciative of that. But it lists some of the products you worked on. So you helped to develop Kronos and Kronos X, the OASYS keyboard, the one that made it to retail, Wavestation, OASYS PCI, along with the original never released OASYS keyboard, which there is a picture of on the website there. Which, of course, then was responsible in some way, shape, or form for things like the Prophecy, the Wave Drum, the Z1, or the Z1 in America, and various other bits and bobs throughout the KORG stuff, other than, of course, everything that you've been working on in recent years, such as, and this is a question I've got for you. So I was going to say the Wavestate, the Mod Wave, the Op6, the multi-poly. Is there a collective term for those synthesizers? Because they all sit around the Raspberry concept. So is there a collective term for those? Because I've always wondered.
We should have one, and we don't. So internally, the platform is named Spark, and we just named it that kind of, because. And then there are actually two different Spark instruments, right? I think there's a guitar modeling thing, and then of course there's the Arturia drum machine. So we were sort of prevented from using that in anything.
Yeah, cool. Well, listen. I want to know. So I'm just going to throw this up onto the screen. This is from danphillips.com. It's a very easy thing to. That's the original KORG OASYS keyboard that never made it to market. I remember seeing pictures of this in magazines and thinking, "Oh, look at that! That looks rather amazing." And then hearing what it could do. Am I right in saying that at some point OASYS was essential, before it made it into a keyboard, it was something a bit more computer based? It was like a concept that was at KORG that things were then kind of spun out of, or was it a keyboard that then derived into these smaller things such as the instruments and the PCI card and so on?
Well, I think what you're maybe thinking of is this program called SynthKit. And so that was there was actually an earlier version of it, which was a non-real-time thing that run on Sun workstations that was just called Drag. It was done by this genius guy named Steve O'Connell, who later founded Bitheads. I'm not entirely sure what he's up to right now, but he did some of the first software synthesizers after he left Korg. But the idea of Drag was something very much like Max, before Max did audio, so just in the early days of Max, previous to MSP. My lights just died here.
Okay.
And maybe I'll turn on my normal lights.
Scary.
Okay. So, well, that's much worse, isn't it? I'm terribly distracted by my complexion now. And then we moved to this thing called SynthKit, and SynthKit would run in real time once it compiled. So you would compile something, and then you could run it on a Sound Designer 2 card, if you remember those.
Yes.
And then that actually would directly build algorithms and sounds for the OASYS keyboards. So there was one of those. There was exactly one that looked like that.
Wow.
We called that the Blue Bomber. And then we had a bunch of them that were all bent metal that really reminded me of do you remember the Octava mics? They still make them. But when they came over, there were these, very, very rough on the outside. It was none of this Neumann, nicely milled things. It was like this bent metal thing. So I decided that these bent metal prototypes reminded me of the Octava mics. And so I one day made up these things that were in kind of this mock Cyrillic script. It said Perestroika synthesizer, and I went sticking them on all of these things. So all of I think those stickers are still on the few that we may have left somewhere in a warehouse. So the Perestroika synthesizer, and we would use this program running on the Mac, and we would make algorithms for this synth. And they're working on all sorts of things, working on physical modeling things, working on pretty early virtual analog, as we call it at the time, and tone wheel organ models and vocal models, brass and wind models, and that sort of thing. And then that same program, SynthKit, ended up being the basis for OASYS PCI when we brought out OASYS PCI. So that was a kind of similar system running on
one of your colleagues in Korg Europe. I was working for someone else at the time. One of a company. I'd never say this. I used to work for EMU. No one knows that. No one knows that. But I was
used to look after the eggs.
Yeah, I was working for. That's a good. I was working for them, and one of your colleagues in Korg UK gave me one of the PCI cards, and I've still got it somewhere. It's an astonishing instrument. I mean, it was so far ahead of its time at the time, and we were doing Zeppelin filters and God knows what else, but it did something totally different. So if you were involved with that, Dan, I mean, it's lots of that.
Well. There were various people involved, but yes, that was one of my first real babies, actually. So I spent a lot of time on that one.
Did you sell many?
Well, as my boss at the time would say, we sold all of them.
Good response. Good response. Yeah. That period of time in the early to mid 90s was a very exciting time for synthesizers, because we'd been through the whole analog thing, and we'd been through a lot of this digital stuff, and it was just one or the other, and then physical modeling became possible, capable, marketable. It was able to be put into units. You and Korg and Yamaha both had these experimental machines. You with OASYS, and the VP1 with Yamaha, neither of which came to market, both of which had kind of unparalleled power for the time and were just remarkable things. And, you eventually spun some of that technology out of it and made it into viable products. And the first one I recall was the Prophecy. I remember seeing the PCI card, but I never had a computer good enough to run it. And I remember seeing the Prophecy at a time when I was looking to buy, some proper equipment. And I remember looking at the price thinking, who on earth would spend that money on a 37-note keyboard that's monophonic and looks like it was extracted from Buck Rogers or something? It was this weird-looking thing. Then I actually played one, and I was like, gotta have me one of those. And it's one of my cold dead hand synths. It sits over there along with the Z1, which I was eventually able to get hold of. But it was actually, funnily enough, it was at the Z1 launch here in the UK where we went to this thing. I think it was at one of the big convention centres in London. It might have been Olympia. And there was this big thing going on. And the Z1 was being demoed, and I was there with my first wife, and I'm like, no, this is jaw-dropping stuff. And she's bored absolutely out of her head. But it was at that thing when I came out, they had some Trinities and Prophecies, and that was the first time I actually thought, I'm going to play this supposed, joke of a synthesizer, and played it. I was just like, this is incredible stuff. Because it not only sounded great, but it also made me sound like I could play a little bit. The expression on it, allowed me to, and I just fell in love with it straight away. And I went home, and then a couple of weeks later, I went and bought one, and it's still an incredible thing. And of course, it was followed by the Z1 a few years later, which gave us polyphonic modelling and lots of different new models, like the Electric Tynes model for the electric piano and stuff. It must have been a really exciting time. I mean, I'm not saying it's not exciting now, but back then, when you're kind of really breaking new ground, it must have been a fantastic time to work at a company like that.
Mm-hmm. It was very exciting.
Yeah.
It remains exciting. I mean, and really, we kind of view it as a through line mostly. So, what the big thing that I got when I got there was one of the original names, if I remember correctly, from the OASYS. So it was a very curious time. So Dave Smith was working at KORG R&D, right? Mm-hmm. KORG had taken in, they hadn't purchased Sequential, but they had hired all of the remaining engineers at Sequential, and they were at KORG R&D. Mm-hmm. And that kind of merged with a great guy named Carl Hirano. I think his real name is Katsuhiko. He passed away a little while ago, but he had been the product manager for a small synth that you might have heard from Yamaha called the DX7. And and then we also had this guy, Alex Limberis, who had been the first engineer hired at Ensoniq, who was one of the guys instrumental in the Mirage. And so there were these three guys. They're really quite interesting. And I have to say, I was just out of college, and I didn't really appreciate any of them as much as I would now. But it was a neat time. And Dave Smith in particular had this vision of doing software-based synthesis. And so initially, of course, we had to build our own hardware to do software-based synthesis. So, the original OASYS used custom KORG DSP chips. And then we moved to off-the-shelf DSP chips with the OASYS PCI, and then moved to off-the-shelf Intel chips with the OASYS and the Kronos, and then off-the-shelf ARM chips with the Wavestate and its follow-up products. But this basic idea of not having dedicated hardware to make your sounds, not being bound by dedicated hardware, that was the really, really impressive thing. Even the Wavestation, in its own way, was kind of a software synth. Because it was based on the hardware that was used in the ONW. And the ONW was not built to do wave sequencing. It wasn't built to crossfade sounds. So how did they do it? They did it by kind of a behind-the-scenes sequencing. So they would play one voice, and they would fade that out, and then fade this other voice in, and then take the other voice and fade that in, and do that. So they were using this chip, but really not in the way it was intended to be used. And it was pretty neat. It was very exciting to be doing that. And so the idea then of having a system in which you could choose whatever synthesis method worked for a given task, to be able to do pianos, for instance, with samples, because that tends to work the best. for pianos, even if you do some other things around it. Or if you want to be doing software synthesis for an electric piano sound, or physical modeling for wind sound, or virtual analog for an analog sound, or modeling an electronic electroacoustic setup like electric pianos or like Hammond organs, for instance, tone wheel organs. So you weren't bound by a single synthesis method. That was this big vision. And of course, Dave Smith then went off and did Sear Systems Reality, which was an actual software synth, funded in part by Intel, I believe. That was so. But this whole idea of, instead of building purpose-built hardware, thinking of more general purpose hardware, which can then run some sort of variety of software on top of it and be flexible there. That has kind of been our vision since 1990, since really when I arrived at KORG. And
it has taken. I mean, the let's call them the Spark synths have taken off so incredibly well. You've got the 37 key versions, you've got SE versions of things like the Wavestate and the Op6 as well, which I very nearly bought a few weeks ago because KORG UK were knocking them out really, really cheap at this show. I was so tempted. Even my wife said, "You'd be stupid not to get one." And with that permission, in the end, I ended up getting the 700 SM, which I think was probably the best choice because it's small and compact, and I have a history with it. But I mean, they've just taken off. So, have you been amazed at how well they've done? Have they exceeded your expectations in terms of popularity, or did you know these were going to really hit?
I think that they've. I think especially the Wavestate exceeded expectations, and I'm very happy about that. I had this. I joke to people that when I was thinking about what wave sequencing 2.0 would be. I was inspired by I have a music degree. One of the I think that music degrees are fantastic things to have. They don't necessarily get you anything just by saying, "Oh yes, I have a music degree from the University of California." Oh my, will you run our company for us, please? But they do all sorts of interesting things for you, and I'm very much in favor of liberal arts education. So I said to people, well, I'm thinking of wave sequencing. I'm thinking of approaching it in a different way, based on one of the most popular forms of music from the 20th century, which is total serialism.
Okay.
Not actually a particularly popular form of music, but the basic idea, right, is that you have these lists of characteristics of sounds, lists of timbres and pitches and intensities, and you kind of cycle through these lists, and you can get interesting things, especially if the lists phase against each other. Okay. And so I thought that was pretty cool. And I will tell you that before I was able to make any demonstration, and I think I found some sort of obscure sequencer that would let me run different lanes. And so I did a couple demos in that just to show people what the heck I was thinking of. The only person I know who actually understood what I was talking about when I was first proposing this was not one of our engineers, but was instead a friend of mine who really lives the artist life. I have great respect for him. My friend Jim Connolly. He's probably not watching right now, but and he went to a conservatory, and I said, "Oh, it's like real time total serialism, and you hold a note and you have these lists." And he says, "Oh yeah, okay, got it." So that's what good music education does for you.
Yeah.
But and it turns out that although I think Boulez, while being extremely influential, is maybe not that popular with the common man. I think that the concept works really, really well, especially when you can control it in real time from a keyboard. It's pretty fantastic. So I was very excited by that. But yeah, I think that the Wavestate was a great product. It is a great product, and I still use it all the time, both the hardware and software. I've got the hardware over there, but it also was sort of the perfect pandemic synth.
Okay.
So it was released at a very good time. So yeah, we sold all of them, and we sold a lot more of all of them.
Excellent stuff. We've got about 10 or so minutes left.
Okay.
Jason, Scott, if you've got any questions, Ken, even, I know me and Andy sort of like have hogged our guest a little bit. but anything that you can think of. We've got some questions here. Here was this one. This was from Probes. If Korg were to produce a hypothetical Wavestate XSE with a 61-note poly aftertouch keyboard and 16-part multi-timbrality, what would Dan envisage this would take technically? And I think the last bit of that is probably who knows. But I mean, you've just waxed very lyrical about the concept of Wavestate and how you've advanced that from its original. Do you see? Is there more to come in that? Do you think? Have you got more ideas to take it into other places, or are you now thinking let's do something completely different?
Absolutely, more ideas about what we could do with that. I'm not sure when we'll get to it. There's only so much time in the day, so we have other things that we're looking at right now, and I look forward to returning to it someday. Yeah. We've done a little bit of it with thinking about it just as a sequencer. So that was with the mod wave and the multi-poly, and taking a little bit of a different take on it, because the Wavestate is still really based on swapping voices the same way that the Wavestation was. And so there's certain things that makes easy and certain things that makes difficult. You can't do transitions between points, for instance, because you're just fading one voice out and the other voice in. And so the motion sequencers on the Wavestate and the mod wave and the multi-poly sort of take it in a little bit different areas. But yeah, there are things that we could do. There are always things that we can do.
Yeah,
that's the exciting thing about it.
That's it. Watch this space.
I have a question.
I got a question.
Go on then. Go for it. We'll bring Torstens in a bit. Go on.
My question to Dan would be: such a creative guy, such a creative thinker, and obviously having had your history throughout with Korg, have there been any ideas that you have had in your time? It doesn't matter which era of your that have been so brilliant to you, but just haven't made it to the final draft. Or you being like, no, you can't make that. Anything you can share with us in that? That's kind of a loaded question, right? Obviously, the answers. Here we go.
I'm not sure. I might describe myself in less hagiographic terms. But there are lots and lots of smart people who work at Korg. And I don't know. I think that, making products is always this blend of having good ideas for a product, right? And then having you can have a cool idea, but maybe that's no good musically, or maybe, not enough people would be interested in it. But if you think that it is something that could actually be, something that you could take into the market, then you start this long sales process, right? So I was telling you about, for instance, doing demos of Wavestation 2.0 to convince the people within my close group that this was something that was going to be exciting, right? Yeah. And so you get the people who are close to you excited, and then you reach out to other people and make sure that it's something that they can sell, and make sure that it is something that everyone in the company can get behind. And so, for instance, with the Wavestate, the reason it's small and inexpensive is both because we were inspired by the mini log, and we thought that's a great product. And what could we do if we took a DSP-based, software-based synthesis approach to that instead of an analog approach? But also, the whole format of that product was based around, to a certain extent, a consensus of different organizations within Korg, and so that's a big part of the dance. That's very, very important, I think, to making successful products. And so, when you ask, are there fantastic ideas that I had that didn't get made into sense? None that I remember right now, which probably means that they weren't that fantastic.
Good. Yeah.
Well, the MIDI kazoo didn't take off, did it?
Well, I always joke. My brother will always ask me, "How's the MIDI tuba coming?" Because that was always my response when people would ask me what I was working on.
Yeah. Did you have a question, Kent?
Yes. In the warehouse, in the dark corners where the cobwebs are, is there still any OASYS knocking about?
As in the commercial product?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the 2005 OASYS?
Yeah.
I doubt it.
Damn.
He regrets selling. He sold his, you see. and he
Well,
wants
it was a desperate time and desperate measures and everything, and so I didn't want to sell it.
I'm sure it was meant to be, and one will come back to you at some point.
Well, I keep looking on eBay. I must admit.
It'll happen. It'll happen.
All right, one will turn up, won't it?
Yeah. Let's see. We've got a few. So, Torsten was going to ask, do we get an MDEX update soon so we can plug in more synths than in the original? I don't know if that's a question you can answer. Are you looking to improve upon that at all?
So I think he's referring to the MDEX. And the MDEX, I think he's actually referring to Legacy Cell. That was my guess, and that was my question in there, because that's the one that makes sense. MDEX is an effect plugin, so you can insert whatever unless he's asking about effects algorithms anyway. But I think what he's asking about is Legacy Cell, and I responded to him in the chat that we're aware that it'd be nice to be able to use more synths. Legacy Cell started at the very beginning of the Legacy Collection. It was a way of just combining the MS-20 and the Poly 6 and effects at the same time.
Yeah, that was a cool little thing. We're fast running out of time. We've not covered any news this week because we've had a great guest on, and we've had some great visitors as well. So we will touch on, I hope it's not going to be one of those things where we get this backlog and then we just never get round to it. But we will touch on things like GeForce Software's map synthesizer that came out this week, which is incredibly good. We will also touch on, and I don't want to just half-ass this one because it is a really great update, Sonicware's version 2 update to the ELZ1 Play with wavetables from Waldorf in there as well. It's a really, really cool thing. I will not bother talking about Arturia's Minilab 3 in champagne gold. So if you fancy one that isn't white, black, or mint, you can now have one that is champagne.
I like mint.
Yeah,
Nice
it's a great
mint.
little controller, by the way, but I'm not into the whole colour thing. But one thing I do want to cover just very briefly, and I hate to end on a little bit of a downer, but I'm sure that he would not want us to be sad about this. But last week we lost an absolute legend in the electronic music world, and that was, of course, Dave Ball from Soft Cell, who passed away peacefully at really no age at all, 66 I think it was. Dave was responsible, I mean I can only speak from my personal experience, but his music along with Mark's vocals and lyrics were just so responsible for me getting into electronic music and a certain type of electronic music. It was an era where there were lots of these synth duos coming along with their very sparse but very emotional, very intricate songs, and Soft Cell were right up there. And of course Dave was also a big fan of the Korg synth bass. That was a very popular instrument in his arsenal. So I just wanted to acknowledge the passing of a legend, and extend our best wishes and sympathies to his friends and family. The new Soft Cell album was finished, and he got to hear the last mix of it, the final mix of it, about 2 or 3 days before he passed. So that album will get released along with the reissue of The Art of Falling Apart, which I think it came out today. So that's been reissued, and with Dave's family's full blessing and everything. Just a quick round of the room. I mean, we're all of a certain age where Soft Cell were probably quite an important and influential act. Dan, were you familiar with Soft Cell's catalogue and Dave's work?
Not so much the catalog, but Tainted Love was huge when I was in school. So yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, you've been very quiet today.
Yeah, I know. I'm just everyone else was chatting, so I thought I'll just stay quiet for a change.
But for you, was Soft Cell a big thing for you?
Yes, yeah, it was that era all the way through. Yeah, and it was. I seen it when we were over. Well, we were away over in Spain. When I seen the news come through, and I just thought, he's young. It's too many people going too soon. Is all I can say. But
there was no age. I mean, I know he'd had some health issues, and he'd also had a fall where he'd broken some vertebrae and stuff, so he wasn't that mobile, and he would only do like the gigs because This was the crazy thing. Was it 2018? They did their farewell tour. They did this massive gig at the O2, and that was supposed to be it. But because of that, all of a sudden there was this big resurgence in soft cell fans, and they carried on, and they've produced Happiness. I can't remember what the full name of the album is. I've got it, but but they produced one studio album. The second one is coming out. I think it's going to come out early next year. So it's a real shame. Kent, did you you're on mute, by the way, before you
yeah, I know.
ever worked on any of Dave's synths? Did you ever?
I think I have. I think I have. Yes, because it normally would have come through a third party handler. But I seem to remember the name being dropped at the door along with the keyboards.
Yeah.
So no, soft cell were huge for me too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I always remember my mum saying that it was between Mark Arnold and Morrissey that she would say, "Oh, they can't sing, these singers these days, they can't hold a tune." But that was the beauty of a lot of Mark's vocals, was it was
different.
It was wild. There was something about it. Jason, any fond memories of soft cell?
Unfortunately not. Apart from the hearing them constantly on the wireless and on top of the pops through my childhood, I think I got more appreciation for 80s synth pop recent years. I didn't like Depeche Mode at all until 5-10 years ago. So I'm late to that party. But yeah,
why is he here? What?
Well, I'm bringing the alternatives on. I'm the rock in this party.
Okay, yeah, we'll give you that.
I play guitar. I mean,
that's true.
That's
it,
true. Isn't it? That's why.
We've got to give you some leeway.
Yeah, and 70s synth stuff. They did do stuff in the 70s, so that's that's more my comfy zone for synthesis, I think, and maybe 90s dance. I hop over the 80s, but I mean, you can't go far wrong with that era of clean pop that was so well produced, and I think soft cell are right at the forefront of that movement of doing that stuff. So but 66 is no age.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, the one thing that set soft cell apart was the fact that Mike Thorne, their producer, had access to a synclavier, and that if you listen to the first two albums anyway, especially the first one, Non-Stop Electric Dancing. I can always get the two mixed up. There was the album, then was the remix album. I can never remember which way around it was. But anyway, loads of synclavier, and nobody else. There were no other kind of synth pop duos at the time because they couldn't afford one. They were just really lucky to have a producer that had one, and it gave them a sonic quality that none of them had. They had real dramatic, that stuff that just sits in the background but gives a kind of a big theatrical presence. It was a fantastic thing. Andrew, you're definitely old enough to remember all of this stuff.
I was never a great fan of Mark's voice, but Tainted Love came out. When Tainted Love came out, I really, really paid attention to the synths and the orchestration and the way he put it together. It was an extraordinary sound, and that was going to be something which, in a second series of Synthspirations or a second, whatever, that's one of the singles I was going to mention. Dave had an extraordinary way of combining sounds together in really unique and quite surprising ways, and I just that stayed with me, still does. I think his synthesis on that particular track and synth was standout. So great loss for me, very, very great loss for me. He was a standout guy.
I always say that "Say Hello, Wave Goodbye" still brings me to tears. It's just such a beautiful
You're right.
song.
You're right.
With a lovely story to it. It's one of those great songs that has a little story in 3.5 minutes, set to a beautiful soundtrack. So Dave Ball, greatly missed. Will be greatly missed. And but don't worry, there's new music coming soon. So do check that out, because I think the inspiration for the music on the new album is definitely, they say it harks back to the great days of soft cell. So looking forward to that, and we've lost another great. So that, I think, brings us to the end of the show. Although I've got to say, Carl Bedford has just got in from Penny for the Lantern. My turnip is shagged. Happy Halloween, everyone. Thank you, Carl. You are forgiven. Yeah. Our American friends are going, my turnip is shagged.
That's exactly what I'm doing right now.
It's a pleasant way of saying it's tired and out of condition, I think. Yeah. So thank you,
Well,
Carl.
I hope so.
We all enjoyed your synthspirations earlier, so thank you very much for that.
Definitely.
Dan, listen, I've been wanting to get you on for such a long time, and I'm very glad we did. I hope you will come back again at some point, whether you've got something to talk about new, or whether you just want to come on and nerd out with synths.
That would be fun.
We'd be more than happy to help. But thank you ever so much, ladies and gentlemen. Dan Phillips of KORG.
Resplendent.
Yes, KORG Legacy Collection 6 is out now. You can buy it as a collection. You can buy it as individual instruments. There are offers and discounts depending on your KORG purchase history. So go to your KORG account to see what is on offer there for you. All of those are there, and I can highly recommend them. They've been great fun to play with. Particularly, I mean, I thought I'd be playing the 3300 a lot, but I've just been getting into that Trinity because it has an era sound, sound of an era.
I need to download that. I do need to download it. Yeah.
Gentlemen, Jason Jervis and Scott McAuley, thank you very much for joining us as per.
Pleasure, as always.
Yeah, we'll look forward to having you on again very soon.
I
Scott,
did, just sorry to cut you off, Robbie, but I did find a picture of Andrew when he worked at EMU.
Again, that's one for the Brits. Excellent stuff.
Where's the Range Rover?
Yeah. Kent, thank you as always for joining, and look forward
You're
to
most
seeing
welcome,
you
sir.
online again at some point soon. Andrew as well.
Indeed.
Thank you very much indeed. And of course, a massive thank you to everyone that's watched the show, that's contributed in the chat. Thank you for all of your questions. I'm sorry I didn't get round to all of them, but please, I think, Dan, you're a member of our Facebook group, aren't you? I'm pretty sure you're in there. So I don't want to deluge Dan with all of these questions, but if you had a question, I'm sure when Dan gets a moment, he'll be happy to answer. But thank you ever so much for joining us again. Thank you to everyone that's watched, and have certainly for people this side of the Greenwich Mean Time line. Your Halloween is probably well and truly over. You might be watching a horror film later on tonight, so enjoy that. But of course, if you're over in America, then you've got all of the fun to come. So try not to eat too much candy. Try and have fun and have a fantastic Halloween weekend. And we will see you same time, same place next week, where we'll be joined by Guido Salaya of GS Music, telling us all about his wonderful synthesizers, the E7 and the Brie 6. And he's joining us from Argentina, and I think he is, still the only synthesizer manufacturer of note in Argentina. And Scott's obviously done a lot of work with him. That's how we've got that little thing going there. I hope you've enjoyed the Halloween stuff that we've had going on in the background. Might as well make use of this stuff. So join us same time, same place next week for 2 more hours of synth nerding out with Guido and the rest of the gang. Until then, have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy yourselves, stay safe, and we will see you all in 7 days' time. Take care, everyone.
Good talking with you.